We are gathered here today to celebrate school gardens. This is Chris. He is a science teacher here at MBA, and we've been buddying up for a little while. I've been helping get some compost in their gardens here. Jack and Pat over here have been very instrumental in the MBA gardens, and if it's not raining or anything, you're more than welcome to go look at these gardens. They're behind the dining hall over there.
They are.
And Chris, tell us a little bit about the gardening project here.
Well, so much can happen with a misspoken sentence. I saw Jeff at the local food summit, and I said, we got to move this into the schools, and this is what I get for it. Welcome to MBA. We're overjoyed to have you. There's going to be a great message of hope tonight from Cliff Davis about young people in gardening. Patrick and Jack joined us at the local food summit, and they were so impressed. I realized that our students had to link up with the layer of gardeners above them and the layers of gardeners below them. So we appreciate your support. We love having you here. It'll be a great evening of food, friendship, family, and fun. So thanks for coming.
Thank you, MBA. Yeah, it's a real honor to be here. And our first thing on the program is my friend Hal. Hal, would you come out here a minute? Just come out here. Actually, bring those cohorts out here. So, I'm a gardener, but us gardeners aren't much count without chefs. You have to have chefs. And here are, you come out too. Some of my favorite chefs in Nashville.
I'm Hal Holdenbach, chef and owner of Lockman Table over in East Nashville.
I'm Trey, chef and owner of the farmhouse in the Black Rabbit City. That's my partner.
Yeah,
I'm
Chad. Yeah, I'm with this guy. Did y'all hear that? Trey's getting ready to open his second restaurant called the Black Rabbit.
Where's it going to be?
On 3rd Avenue, right across from Prentice Alley.
There you go.
Native, born and raised.
I'm a rare breed, yeah. Mountain Juliet.
I've been here for about 14 years.
Cool. So what's going to happen is they're going to do a little chef demonstration. You can go in that door and watch it in person, or you can stand here, sit down here, and it'll be, this is what's in there. Since there's not really enough room for everybody to go in there.
Yeah.
So that's what's going to happen. And if you don't want to do that, you can go back out into the hallway and drink and talk about school gardens.
I'm just going to give you a little rundown of the dish when I get back up here on the screen. And if there's like any questions about anything in the food department, gardening, meats, GMOs, like anything anybody's got on their mind, like feel free to start asking questions or educating one another. I'm sure between all of us, we have different thoughts and philosophies and how we choose to do things, like how we choose to spend our money in restaurants and who we choose to support and who we choose to not support is almost as important as who we choose to support. Because we're trying to keep the money locally. We're trying to, keep the economy spinning, here in Nashville. And I've always said if we take care of our own backyard, everybody should have a nice backyard. So,
Yeah. Absolutely.
So yeah, I'll see you up on the screen.
Right. It's kind of weird because I can see myself through the door. I'm going to have a hard time focusing here. All right, so when Jeff asked me to help out with this and we started talking about the farms and what we could get, it kind of worked out nicely that I could do Lockman Table's signature dish, which is a New York strip steak with my fairly well-known sauce, chimichurri, which is actually something that we've started we started a product line last year, and we're actually jarring and selling chimichurri right now, along with our smoked peach jam, red pepper jam, at cool little shops around Nashville. That's been a fun project for us. And we do green beans with pecans that we deglaze with our smoked vinegar, which is actually right here. Lots of chefs in Nashville, lots of my friends, we've been smoking vinegar for a long time, and it takes a long time to smoke vinegar at a low heat so that it doesn't evaporate and just become nothing. But something like meat can take a smoke nicely because it's very porous, whereas liquid is kind of harder to smoke. You got to offer more surface area and really control the temperature well, but you're adding a flavor of smoke along with an acid. So as you cook, you're helping yourself two different ways. You're making the flavor a little more, have more depth, and then also giving the food some acid, which helps food taste good. And here these days too, where people are a little more health conscious, acid makes food taste better without adding bad things such as fat. And I think a lot of vinegars probably would even be considered healthy. So the smoked vinegar is a nice touch to our green beans. We have some heirloom tomatoes here. We started getting cherry tomatoes, I guess about a week ago now. Lachlan Table uses a farm called White Squirrel Farms out in Bethpage, Tennessee, for most of our produce. Chris and Tracy and Winston and I have been doing business together since Lachlan Table first opened, and it's really quite a beautiful relationship that we have, and we try to buy most of their harvest, and we try to support the farm year round. I always tell people you can't just buy tomatoes in July. You've got to find a farm, you got to support them year round, and Mother Nature will tell you what to do. When he walks in the back door with everything that he's harvested, me and my sous chefs will sit down at a table, taking all the ingredients, and we'll plan the menu for the next week, depending on, what's coming in. And then he'll also let us know when things are about to go away, which is also very important so that we can stay organized and stay on top of our menu. And, creativity sometimes doesn't just happen in 5 minutes. So it's nice to have maybe a day or two to really, think about things and make sure your thoughts are good before you put them on the menu and charge people money for them, because ultimately we want you to be happy when you leave Lachlan Table. So the green beans are here. We've got some beautiful potatoes and onions that the Barefoot Farmer brought over to the restaurant on, I think, Wednesday. And we roasted those. We're going to serve those family style. And I've made a roasted garlic mayonnaise that we're going to, toss those in to just, make them taste even better. And then this is the strip loin. There's 2 per beast. And this is actually from KLD Farms in Cheatham County, which is what we use at Lachlan Table. I live in Cheatham County. My business partner grew up in Cheatham County. And we felt like it made a lot of sense to buy our beef from Cheatham County. And KLD is where we get, a lot of our beef right now. Can I have that fillet knife, please, behind you? So this is the way that, we get them at the restaurant, whole like this. And there's not a lot of work to do. But, even if, like I tell people, if you want to go to, Costco and buy whole loins and cut them and then maybe get a food saver, if you're interested in saving money and, cutting meat yourself, it's a neat trade to be able to do. And, there was a time in my life where I actually thought I was probably going to be a butcher. But then I realized there's no money in butchering. Until, you do something kind of like Porter Road did, which was a great concept that I wasn't smart enough to think of myself. So I continued chefing. But I'll take the strip and just kind of look at it and, just clean it up a little bit. Right along here, there's always a tendon in a strip that is, for the most part, non-edible. You can chew on it for a week and you'll never really be able to break it down. And, at the grocery store, they're going to leave that on there for you because obviously they want to charge you the money because you pay by the weight. But at the restaurant, I want to make sure that every bite that I give you is an edible bite. So I'll do a good job taking this vein out of there before I break it down, and it's just easier to do while the loin is whole, as opposed to doing each steak when you break it down into the different ounces that you want to use. A lot of times too, with like this trim here, we'll cook the fat down and let it liquefy, and then we'll mix that with our smoked bone marrow fat. Like every time we smoke bone marrow, there's going to be a little bit that renders into the sheet tray, and we save all that. It's delicious, got great flavor, and like right before we serve a steak, we'll brush it, with the beef fat and the bone marrow, smoked bone marrow fat, and it just really makes the steak look pretty. It really makes the grill marks, kind of get defined, and being that we do eat with our eyes first, it just makes the steak look really nice. So from here, I flip it over. And, it looks very nice and clean. Like, I really don't need to do much else to this one at all. Here's a little bit of tendon where the rib was. I get rid of that. And then at this point in time, too, I'll switch knives from a small fillet knife to a scimitar. And this is a scimitar. So obviously it's a much bigger knife, and I can get through it, with one cut. This is a knife, it's not a saw. So you don't want to see people necessarily going like this with it when they're cutting meat. Maybe like one or two motions is really all you need for a nice straight cut. And I prefer to cut my strips meat side up as opposed to fat side up. It's just a trick that a butcher taught me years ago, and it seems to work for me. I prefer it that way. So this will become like a little chef's bite eventually. We won't let that go to waste. But then, I usually have a digital scale beside me when I'm cutting meat because, portion control is obviously important in the business side of things. I don't want to charge you for a 10-ounce steak and give you a 12-ounce steak because I'm losing 2 ounces of profit, doing that. So it's very important that when we cut meat, we do a good job weighing it properly. So cutting meat will often go to, senior members of the kitchen. But once somebody proves to me that they can do it, because this is probably one of the most expensive things in our kitchen, you pay decent money for decent produce, but protein tends to be, where your money is. Nuts are expensive, bacon can be expensive, but protein is where a lot of our money is. We call that kind of the center of the plate, the protein, and then we kind of build out from there. But I need it to be a certain thickness when I cut steaks so that I can hit my temperatures. If you order a mid-rare and I've only cut it, a centimeter thick, then there's no chance I'll ever be able to give you what you want. So I ask for the smaller strips, and when you use smaller farms, sometimes the cuts will be a little bit smaller because the animals are just a little bit smaller. They're not getting as big as commodity beef would, before what I like to call the worst day of their life, the day that they're harvested. And then this meat is also dry aged, and I'm going to talk about that just for a second. Dry aged as opposed to wet aged. Commodity beef will mostly be harvested, processed, cooled, and then bagged. And from there, it'll ship off to your grocery stores and whatever, and who knows how long it takes to get there. I have no idea. But if you would ever buy a whole strip steak from like Costco or Sam's Club and you pick it up, you'll notice there'll be a lot of liquid in there. And that's more than likely water and blood that forms into a liquid. And then when you open that up, if you pour that liquid out, it could weigh 8 to 16 ounces. So, and you paid for that. So, you just spent $10 on something you're putting down the drain. So you got to mathematically take that into consideration for the whole cost of your product. And when you're a chef, these are important things. When you're at home, maybe it's not so important. But, most of us at home even have a budget for food and things like that. So it's important to understand. When you dry age something, it does not get bagged immediately. It goes into a controlled environment where the air is moving and it stays there for a while. And one of the natural things that's going to happen when you dry age something is evaporation. And anytime you take water away from food, you're going to make the flavor more intense. Like here's another example, the wood burning oven at Lachlan Table. All we do is use oil and salt when we roast those vegetables in there, but it's 750 degrees in there. So it's probably, 300 or more degrees hotter than, what you're doing at home. And while you're in that hot oven roasting, water is getting sucked out of those vegetables much harder than it would in an oven at home. So there again, less water, more flavor. We didn't do anything special to the vegetables, oil and salt. Of course, we sourced them from a good farm, and we took care of them the whole length of their journey. And then after the farm drops them off to us, it's our job from there to see them through to the guest in an appropriate fashion. So dry aged beef is a neat concept. It definitely tastes better. I mean, I'll tell you that right now. That's a fact. I mean, we've tasted dry aged next to wet aged, and you can't even compare the two. The flavor is so much better. And as they dry age too, there's also a chemical reaction that naturally happens that makes the meat more tender without adding anything to it. So I believe this is the way our grandparents probably did it. But, as we become such a dense society, obviously we have to learn how to do things faster and produce things quicker. And we lose nutrients, we lose quality. And I think, small independent restaurants like us, we're trying to kind of bring it back to what it should be. And part of our job is to educate. And sometimes people get it and sometimes they don't. And we understand that. But like I said, we enjoy spending our money with local farms. We enjoy keeping the economy moving, in our Middle Tennessee. We have a guest in the room right now, Karen, where we get our chicken livers from, out at Wedge Oak Farms. And, I'm pretty sure we have the second best chicken liver pate in Nashville at Lachlan Table. So you'll definitely have to stop by sometime and check that out. But, the equation is really very simple, and I've been saying it for years. You source well, you take care of the product, you prep it well, you execute it well, and you serve it, and you should be serving a pretty good product. We believe in simplicity. We believe in getting good meat, good vegetables, doing good things with them, and serving them to our guests. And that's what kind of restaurant we're trying to be. And, it tends to be working for us so far. And, I enjoy being this kind of chef and owner, and I enjoy supporting these people, and the relationships in the community that we've built here in Nashville is really quite wonderful. And there's a lot of awesome, talented, hardworking chefs in Nashville, doing cool things. And I think that's why our food scene, is so cool. And, every chef's different, and every chef has different knowledge. And that's why it's neat to visit all of us. And then, maybe pick your favorites, because all of us are going to have our favorites. But there's lots of cool things going on in Nashville, and lots of cool restaurants, and all the chefs tend to pretty much support one another. And, we got so many people in Nashville right now that if you're cooking good food, you should have a pretty busy restaurant, because there's a lot of mouths out there to feed. But I think it's also important to, talk about cooking and teach young kids how to cook. And, I grew up cooking with my mother. It was my way of getting out of doing my homework. I would rather go downstairs and cook with my mom than be in my bedroom doing my homework. And I've always been the kind of person that would rather be on my feet using my hands than, sitting in a chair writing or typing. And that's just me, so if I wasn't a chef, I think I may have become a motorcycle fixer mechanic. Just something to like use my brain and use my hands. But I'm going to cut a couple more steaks here for you. And, I don't know how much more time we have, but, very important to, get your hands in there. Use your middle finger knuckle as your guide. And, I'll rest that knife right against the edge of my knuckle right there. And that'll be my guide. Always keeping my thumb behind my fingers, never in front of my fingers. And, I'll then go in and make my first cut and then bring it back. And I'm almost all the way through. And then I'll just get through that fat. And, here's a little side shot. And you can see how that tendon on this side of the strip comes through there and up. But like I did when I first started, I already removed it. It would be right here. And you wouldn't want to eat that part of the steak. Now, after I do one more cut, that vein's going to disappear. And you can see here, it's smaller. But the tendon is still gone up here. Now, my next cut, it's going to completely be gone. Now, in the restaurant, we'll save these 3 cuts for mediums and mid-wells, just because, we cook them a little longer, and it's bound to break that tendon down a little bit. I wouldn't want to give this to somebody for a mid-rare, because right in here, it may get a little tough. We also have a Dracarder machine, which is like a very fine needle setup that you actually punch the meat with. And it has a way of breaking those tendons down, to make them a little more edible when you do it. But we don't want to get steaks sent back to the kitchen because people think that they're tough. And then maybe my last thing here will be when you're spending money on this quality of meat, and then you're paying for a dry aged local product, you are more than likely going to pay more than for a commodity product at Kroger. I don't see much of a reason to marinate this, to do anything to this except for salt and pepper. I would start there anyways. Taste the beef. I always tell people to taste the beef. Even tonight when you're eating your dinner, try the first bite of meat by itself and really taste the beef. And then, try it with the delicious chimichurri sauce on your second bite, which is just going to make it even better. But I think chimichurri is one of the perfect condiments to rare meat that exists. And I've been making chimichurri since I was like 21 years old. It's a funny story of how it's something that I did in college, and it followed me my whole career. And then when I had the opportunity to open my own restaurant, it became my signature dish. And we sell anywhere from 20 to 30 strips a night at Lachlan Table. We buy every strip that Porter Road Butcher harvests throughout the week. You will never go into Porter Road Butcher and see strips because I get them all. But those guys are great at Porter Road. James and Chris are good dudes, and we get our strips, our ribeyes, and our pork chops from them. And it's just really good, tasty meat. And once again, supporting the local economy, local farmers. And, I probably buy from maybe 30 to 35 people. And, like Karen out there right now, I only get chicken livers from her. I get, 3 things from Porter Road. I get most of my produce from White Squirrel Farms. I get my ground beef from Bear Creek Farms. I got so many people that I call for like 1 or 2 things. But it's great. And I love kind of spreading the love too, and not just buying from like one person. There again, if we all kind of support each other in small or big ways, we can all hopefully live comfortably and get by and have fun while we do it, and meet cool people in the process. I find that most farmers and most chefs are pretty cool people, honest, hardworking people, and there's no way to hide your true colors at 8:30 on a Friday night. You're in the kitchen and the tickets are coming in, and if you're stressed out, if you're getting beat up a little bit, it's very easy to see. And controlling your emotions and staying focused, you know, these are very important things for people who work in kitchens. And when you work in, you know, I hate to use the word successful, but when you work in good kitchens, like, it's just a must. And, you know, being able to control yourself and work hard for, you know, 12, 14-hour shifts, you know, it's part of our life. It's part of our industry. And, you know, hopefully as you get older, you can work a little less. And that's the whole game plan for me anyways, with being an owner. You know, I mean, I plan on being at that T-ball game on Wednesday night, you know, when my 5-year-old son, you know, has that. As just an employee, I don't know if I'd be able to do that, you know. I'd be working all the time. So, you know, feel very blessed to own a restaurant and to, you know, have these dreams come true and to be a part of East Nashville. You know, it's a great community. And, you know, we're about to turn 5 years old at Lachlan Table on August 11th. So, yeah, man, we're excited and things are going well. And, you know, we love it. We love being a part of this community. So we're happy to be here tonight, happy to be supporting, you know, the Barefoot Farmer and cook this dinner for you guys. And ultimately, you know, get our kids to get their hands in the dirt and the blood and, you know, understand and realize where food comes from, you know. And I think that's, you know, a big reason why we're all here tonight. You know, I'm definitely going to pass this information down to my son and, you know, not just think that, you know, kind of reconnect with nature, if you will. You know, I think it's all in our DNA, but we've just kind of reprogrammed ourselves the past 2 generations. I think it's important to get back into it and, you know, just be connected to the earth. So, enjoy your dinner, guys. Thank you.
I would have that sunflowers. We
are making medicine, fire cider, we're making salve, we're making saving seeds in the winter, and then all of the work in the garden is brought into the classroom at age-appropriate academic levels through history, through botany, and mathematics.
In the NBA student garden, right now we have our summer crops in, and we're growing lima beans, okra, sweet potatoes, tomatoes, and peppers. What do you have?
Well, we're with Nashville, Davidson County Soil and Water Conservation District. One of the things that we use to educate is our soil to spoon. It can relate to all kids and even adults because all of our food starts in the soil.
We are committed to being in schools that are 75% or greater free or reduced lunch schools. And so we really believe in closing the experience gap and also giving kids access to garden-based education.